Hi everyone, welcome to Tech Down Over. I'm Rick Zanotti and I'm joined today by Curtis Judd, who's in the center position of power. That's where we always put him. It makes him feel strong and good. He is strong and good. And then we've got Jeff on the other side of Curtis. He's in the position of secondary power. He's in the position of power many times. When he runs the show, he's actually in a total position of power. So anyway, we're all here. We had some Skype difficulties earlier and again today, yesterday. I don't know what's going on, or it's something on the internet, but it's been... Now, I checked right before we started. We were getting about 535 down and about 525 up. So we were right... We were actually a little higher than we should be. We're supposed to be at 500. So it's been good. So tell you what, let's just run the show. So we're going to start the show recording. Yeah, while it's working, we'll start the show recording in 3, 2, and 1. Hi everyone, welcome to Tech Down Over. I'm Rick Zanotti and I'm joined today by two good friends, Curtis Judd, who's in the center position, and Jeff Blanchard, our co-host and good friend. Before we start, let's run the little intro. Here we go. And we are back. Hi, everyone. Hi, Curtis. How are you?
How are you guys?
I'm doing great. And Jeff, how's it going?
Good, thank you. I've been really looking forward to this because been looking forward to get Curtis's view on his NAB visit this year, because I really haven't talked to anybody about that yet so far.
And he has not yet gotten one of these.
He has, I think.
No, Curtis has, but you haven't.
Oh, no.
You got to get with the crowd. Come on. Curtis, how have you been? How was NAB for you? I saw a lot of the interviews you were doing.
Things were good. Yeah, it was an interesting NAB. On the on the sound side, it was largely a miniature timecode generator year, and on the I don't think we had any major camera announcements. Panasonic had kind of a veiled announcement. Announcement they're supposed to. I thought they were supposed to announce more details about that camera today, although I haven't seen anything yet.
Now, was that a camera or a camcorder?
It was supposed to sit between the Panasonic GH5 and their VariCam LT, which is their cinema.
Interesting.
Cinema. So I don't think it was supposed to be camcorder. Assuming they put it between those, I assume it was an interchangeable lens system. So
well, that'd be cool.
But we'll see what they come out with, and I don't know. I think a lot of the companies are doing their announcements. Some of them are doing them there, but I think a lot of the camera manufacturers are waiting and doing them at different times. Like the Canon C200 just was this week, I believe. So, I don't think they're using the NAB necessarily as their announcement platform as much.
Canon C200. Is that what they announced?
Yeah.
Interesting. Nice camera, but boy, it's expensive.
So Curtis, I noticed with NAB, did you use I think you was using the GH5, wasn't he, for all your interviews?
Brother was kind enough to come along with me. He was the cameraman, and we used the GH5. We wanted to keep it really light. The year before, I had my friend Scott Vanderbilt come out with me, and he brought a Sony FS5. Is that what it's called? FS5, I think. Yep. Yeah. And he had it all kitted out, and it was he had it on a Sockler tripod, and everything, and it was a lot of work, and I felt extraordinarily guilty because he was hauling that camera around with the tripod, and I was just carrying a little go bag, and we decided to give it a try at going really light this year. So my brother actually just handheld. I think that was a mistake. I think next year we'll bring at least a monopod, because some of those pieces got kind of long, and but overall, I think that the Panasonic GH5 has been working out really nicely for us. The in-body image stabilization is actually really, really impressive.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Really been impressed with it, and a lot of people say the low light performance or the high ISO performance of the new one, the GH5, is not that great. I actually find it's pretty good, and in fact, with with the Vlog add-on, I'm finding if you grade it right, the noise is really under control. It's really good.
Yes, well, I saw some of those interviews and where you were saying that you regret not taking a tripod, but I thought your brother did such a great job. I thought some of those interviews went quite a long time, and I was just trying to imagine me holding a camera there, that still for that amount of time, and it wasn't that noticeable until I sort of, oh yeah, there was a slight movement, but if it didn't have such a good image stable, it would be going all over just with that breathing and all that. So it did such a good job for that.
It doesn't really. It would help if I wasn't 6'7" and about so 30 centimeters taller than all my interviewees. So.
Oh, no, that was so funny. I watched some of the interviews, and you got some of the vendors, and they look like 4'5" next to you. But it was cool because it you know what it showed also, that whatever was that the GH5 you were being shot with? Uh-oh.
Yes, we've lost Curtis's sound now again.
Uh-oh.
You got me now?
There you go. You're back.
Yeah, that was all GH5. So everything we shot at NAB was GH5 this year, and in fact, yeah, GH5 has been a great little camera so far. I'm really happy with it. I've held out for all three. I think it was just about 3 years since the GH4 came out. So that was my main camera that entire time, and it's just served me really well. And GH5 just it is rock solid. I really like it.
It's nice. And by the way, it is solid. I dropped it the other day. I didn't really drop it. I flung it from my bag. I had one of the Low Pro tactical backpacks. And I was showing one of the girls who works with us that it had the side slot. You can easily pull a camera out. I almost knocked this one over just now. And I went back an hour later and went, oh, my top's, let me open up the top and put it back in. I forgot I had opened the side because it wasn't facing me. I put it in, closed it, picked it up, took it to my office, no problem. Then we're about ready to leave, and I slung it over my back, and I see this black contraption fly out at high speed, and I went, and it was the camera, and it sheared the nice 12 to 60 millimeter, the f2.8 $1,000 down the tube. It sheared it right off the camera body. It kept the mount on the camera, so I had to unmount it afterwards, but the lens wasn't connected to it anymore, and that cost me $409, I think, for the fix. $410. It was like half the price of the lens almost. I was going, oh man. And I didn't have it insured because I've never dropped anything. It was the first time in my life I ever dropped a camera, or a lens for that matter. I was going, and I didn't drop it. I just flung it. It's just a little bit different. One thing I did notice is they're really cheaply mounted when you look at the inside. A little bit of fish wire, 3 hooks, and that's what puts it on that aluminum mount. I go, that's sort of cheap, but it was my fault for dropping it, so I never would have known had I not sheared it. So, fun. Still waiting to get it back. It's been 2 weeks. 3, almost.
Panasonic has to repair, or
I sent it to Panacare, which is their official in Texas, and they seem really good. They're very professional. We paid, but we haven't heard back from it. It's been about 2 weeks now since we paid, but I suspect the whole lens assembly had to be ordered, so it's probably being shipped from Japan or wherever they keep inventory. So hasn't come back yet, but fingers crossed next week we get it. We sent a note today, but nobody answered. But it was a Friday, so we'll see. But that was, and I love that lens. That 12 to 60 millimeter is a really nice lens, especially for video. And what I was going to tell you originally was, in those videos you shot at NAB, with the height difference of both of you, of the people you were interviewing, you both fit really well in the shot. And I was saying, I wonder what lens he was using. I was actually wondering, because it was wide enough to get both of you in there, and it just looked good, very natural.
That's the illustrious 12 to 35.
The 35, interesting. Okay.
That's a fantastic lens.
That's what I have on this one right now.
Yeah. Love that lens. That lens can do just about 90% of the work I need to, when I do an interview, I usually put a longer lens on just because I want to throw the background out of focus a little more.
Yep.
But for everything else, that is just a solid little piece of kit.
Do you have the Nocticron?
No, you have more gear than I do.
No. I had big tax write-offs that year. That's all. It's a nice lens. It's I've been playing with it on the GH5, and it looks great. It really does. And the 12 to 60 was wonderful. That one, actually, I was pretty impressed with. They have the kit lens, which is a 12 to 60, but I think it's f4 to f5.6, I think. And I went for the slightly better one. It's expensive, but it was like $950, I think. But it's a nice lens. It's so quiet. Not a sound out of the focus motors. Nothing. It's just super quiet, which is really pretty impressive. But most of these lenses are pretty darn quiet. How many of the Panasonic lenses do you have now, or are you adapting it with some of the other lenses you have?
2 lenses for the GH5, and it does 99% of my work.
Okay.
I have 12 to 35, and then I have actually an Olympus 45 millimeter f1.8.
45. Okay.
Yeah, and that's my interview lens. So I do a ton of interview type shots.
Yep.
And that one works beautifully. The only problem, I think the new 42.5 f1.7 from Panasonic has a image stabilizer in it. The Olympus one doesn't, because all of Olympus's cameras do in-body image stabilization work. So if I were buying today, I might actually look at the Panasonic instead of the 42.5.
Interesting. Now, the one thing interesting, though, is with the IBIS on the GH5 is so stable. I've been shocked just standing and panning and watching, and later looking at it going, no, I wasn't tripod or gimbal. What was that? Oh, yeah. It's amazing. It's so smooth. Because the GH4 wasn't all that smooth. When you held it just handheld, and you try to pan, no matter how slow you went, it was a little bit jerky. But on the GH5, it almost feels like you're just on a gimbal or a very smooth tripod. It's pretty amazing what they did.
He's talking.
Uh-oh,
Can't hear him.
I think we lost your voice again. I hear the sound coming back in, a little wind sound.
Yep.
A little bit, not bad. Now it's getting louder. No. It's like a train running through it.
I was interested to see when I was watching the videos of NAB, I was watching somebody else there, and I couldn't pay attention to their video because all I could see was Curtis in the background doing an interview with Aperture, and so I was just trying to see what he was looking at. Then I went from that video back to YouTube to find Curtis's video doing the Aperture. So what was the new 300, wasn't that? Is that an upgrade from the 120, the Aperture light? I think we've got that plane going from Utah to California.
I think it just went away. Can you hear us?
Me?
Oh, there you go. We can hear you now.
Just went away, yes.
So the 300D is an amazing new light. That is probably the equivalent of a 2K tungsten. You can light up the countryside with that thing.
It's nice. It is nice.
It's nice, and I think that Aperture's done a nice job. In fact, is my video? I think I lost video here on my.
No, you're here on. We see you.
Okay, I just don't see you.
Oh, you don't?
I'm actually using an Aperture Amaran Tri-8C to light me here with just shot through an umbrella, and I'm in the process of reviewing this one right now. We'll have it up probably tomorrow, but. Those guys are doing a really amazing job. Ted and his team over there at Aperture, the color quality that comes out of those lights, all of them that I've tested so far, has been really, really good. The 300D, and like I said, you could mount light a mountainside with that, all the way down to their tiny little. There's an Amaran M9, I think it's called, which is kind of a credit card size piece. To use those as little accent lights here and there. Yep. So. They've got just a great lineup. I'm really impressed with what they're doing. Also have another, like a mini Fresnel light they call the Mini 20.
Yes.
Sent one of those over to me. That's the first light that it's really good. The color quality is good. It's great to have something that's a true Fresnel that you can zoom it in and out. It's got barn doors, so you can cut the light nicely. The only problem with that little one is because it's in such a small package, that fan gets a little bit noisy. So you kind of keep it away from your microphones a little bit. But,
But it's quite impressive though the way lights are getting these days. That you can get one of these lights like the 120 and the 300, and just have that, just with that the big just covers the whole area. It's really bright, but not too bright. I remember one of my first video lights, and you look like a vampire when you switch it on. It was 1,000 watts. It just comes, and there was nothing to dull it down, and there was no way of, and you had to bounce it off to this and that. But those ones, and I think we had Hugh on last week, and he had one of the Aperture 120s, just that, and it just lights perfectly for this style of interviewing, so you don't have to mess around too much.
Yes. And of course, you get the dimming capability too, which helps a lot. You can tune it pretty nicely there.
Well, it's pretty amazing how Aperture really in the last, 3-4 years kind of came out of nowhere with some of the best lights out there for darn good price. I think they replaced ICANN in terms of just great lights with a lot more variety than they used to have, because they just leaped in.
Well, to me, Aperture is one of my favorite companies for all little bits of interesting accessories, I think.
Yeah.
For sure. Even microphones. Who knew?
You have that little lavalier aperture, right?
Yeah, I got there's a what's it called? ALOV. I have the ALOV.
Mm-hmm.
And that's decent. I've got, a lot of much fancier microphones that I use a lot of times, but they also put out their shotgun microphone.
Oh, the Deity, right?
Yeah, right. And
that was impressive. You did a review on that when I was going.
Definitely.
I need to get that one. That looks really good. It's amazing. They just come out of nowhere. Now, is Aperture American or are they Chinese?
They're Chinese. I think their designers are in China and the manufacturing is in China, but Ted and his team are based in California.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, they do a good job. They really do. And they have, like you said, from the smallest to the biggest, they pretty much have everything, and they run well. Can't knock it.
And also, I haven't tested these because I'm not in a position to do it, but they also have their, they call it lens regain. It's essentially a lens adapter. And in it also has a neutral density filter. The latest one does. So what that allows you to do is a few things. Number one, it has a remote control, so it adapts, I believe it's Canon glass to E-mount, so Sony.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a remote control, so you can actually focus the lenses remotely. You don't have to be right by the camera.
Cool.
So it has a neutral density filter, which is kind of one of the big, as far as shooting video, it's one of the big drawbacks of shooting on a mirrorless or a DSLR. Is they don't have neutral density filters, so you got to put one on the front of the lens, which means you have to have different size neutral density for each lens that you have, and just a lot of work. And having it built into the lens adapter, that's what a great idea.
By the way, just to make you feel better, the 42.5 Nocticron, you can't really put any adapters on it because it comes out. The lens comes out. It's convex, I think. So you can't mount an adapter to it, which is rather inconvenient. I guess you could put it with a couple of rings to step it up, but other than that, it won't work. So, but again, it's a Nocticron. You're only supposed to be out at night, according to them. So, not the best for daylight because it's really bright. So, yeah, that's not good for that. It's good for interviews, the kind of things that you do and that we do. But it's not that good. You want to go landscape with that thing? No, it's not. It just won't work that well.
Now, Curtis, with your NAB videos, did you use the XLR adapter for the sound, or did you record that separately, or did it straight into the camera?
That was all recorded onto my iPhone. The audio was recorded
really?
on my iPhone.
That's pretty cool.
So it was a Rode Reporter mic, and Rode was kind enough to sponsor me on this. Actually, they sent out a Rode Reporter mic, and to it was attached to it was the Rode iXLR, which is the XLR to Lightning adapter. So that adapter does all of the analog to digital conversion, of course, the preamplification, and sends it right to your phone, and it just worked beautifully. I was really impressed. I expected, mediocre, but it did surprisingly well.
We have two of those Rode Reporters. I bought them last year when I had to go live for a webinar, a seminar we were doing, or actually it was a user conference, and they wanted us to stream the show live, and I go, I need a good kind of recording mic that's dynamic, and I looked at Rode. I go, $125. It's probably not that good. But I read the reviews, and everybody said it was great. It was actually great. It had a nice resonance. And it's the first mic I've had that I can actually put near my chest, and it sounds like it's right near my mouth. It's amazing what those Aussies do. Jeff, you guys are dangerous.
Well,
so
the thing is, I've noticed with that, with all the work that I've seen people do, it does a better job when you're not too close. When people get too close, it gets overpowering. But like Curtis it was quite a way away from him, and it was doing a perfect job. But I think that's where it's designed better. But it doesn't pick up everything. But it's when people get too close, then it seems to just get too much, but it just did a damn good job. I was really impressed with Curtis and Rick's one at your Lectura conference that you did that with.
I'm impressed because when I was listening to you, Curtis, I was going, man, he's always got some good sound device. I wonder what he's recording. I thought you were on either one of your expensive ones or the Panasonic one or something else. I never expected the iPhone. That's cool. Never would have told. It sounded like you were on some nice XLR mixer, portable mixer. I was going, that's really cool. That sounds good. Like the G8 or something like that. That's neat.
But I've done that before with the iPhone. The great thing with that, you can link it with your Dropbox, and then you've got your audio already downloaded. You don't have to worry about it. So.
Yeah. And our goal was keep it as simple as possible. I considered I did at that point have the Panasonic adapter for the GH5, the XLR adapter. But that didn't work that well once you get to dynamic mics, its preamps just sort of start to fart a little bit. Yeah. So I kind of backed off of that and contacted Rode really quickly and said, hey, we're going to be doing some interviews. You guys want to sponsor us? And so they were kind enough to send that over. And I was floored. I was really surprised at how well that thing did. So that preamp and the analog to digital converter in the iXLR is they've done some magic there, because I think that retails for $150 if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Yeah, somewhere in there. So that is a great little piece of a little kit, that reporter and the iXLR, if you're going to be out doing. And we could have shot. I considered this as well. We could have just shot with the iPhone 7. But I kind of got skittish about that. I love my iPhone 7. I think it's the 7 Plus. I love the camera on it. It's got the telephoto. It does really well outdoors, but it always seems to get tripped up, I think, with artificial lighting.
Oh.
Kind of has a hard time getting the white balance right, and it suddenly it becomes really contrasty and not very nice looking. So, and part of that's my lack of experience. I think there are some apps on here that you can do pretty well with, Filmic Pro, but I just haven't spent enough time to feel comfortable with it. And
have you had any issues with the GH5 or the GH4? I had a little bit. Every so often I got banding in certain kind of lights, usually fluorescence, which actually surprised me. But then I started reading that a lot of the mirrorless, and especially if I was in electronic mode on the shutter, which I was, I got a little bit of banding where I never expected it. When I got rid of when I just went back to shutter for some things, I didn't see it, and that was mostly on pictures. On video, I didn't really notice banding. I did notice I have that same adapter for the XLRs on the Panasonic. It's kind of, I don't know, I think it's not that good. It's sort of a little chintzy. Did you like the build quality? It just seems kind of cheap. Almost had you there.
No, that was me, I think, coming in, because we've lost Curtis's sound again. It's that plane's coming back in.
Yep.
But I was thinking, with that adapter though, Rick, it might do well, but a lot of things like Curtis has already proven, there's other options which are much simpler. And these days it would have been better in the days where syncing audio was a problem, but these days you can do all your files and sync them like that. It's not a hard job to do.
No, that's true.
When you're doing them separately. So I think there's one of the programs out there that you can just say, here are all these files, here are all these video clips, sync them. And you can do that if you want to spend the extra money on them.
Yeah. Curtis, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're back.
Okay, good. Yeah,
I've been
I
watching.
agree. I think that the build quality on that Panasonic adapter was okay, but
Right.
if you did actually, if you were running a cable, somebody tripped on that, I would be pretty scared to know what was going to happen. Both to the adapter and to the camera.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It worked beautifully, I think, for for condenser microphones, but as soon as you got to a dynamic, it was over. So syncing, I know a lot of people hate syncing and insist that I do not have the time in post to mess with syncing, but for me, it's just so worth it because you get so many more options and it can sound so much better. And frankly, I have a big fat bias, and that bias is that sound is probably just a little bit more important than picture. And that, I think a lot of people would disagree with me on that, but I think a lot of us
agree
as
totally with
don't
you.
realize how much we actually rely on our ears for our overall sensory experience versus our eyes.
Well, Curtis, I 100% agree with you. I've taught video and audio to groups before, and I always say, you play video games, they'll go, huh? Okay, turn off the audio and tell me how good that video game is. And they go, and then when they try it, I'll get back to them and say, okay, how was it? Really sucked. No matter how good that video is, without audio, there's zero emotion. There's zero interest. It doesn't drag you in, doesn't pull you in. Music, audio, vocal. It makes all the... I agree. I think if you have an 80-20 rule, I'll give 80 to sound and 20 to video. And people think that's crazy, but yeah, try it without audio. Good luck. Yeah, you're right on.
But what I was saying before, I think was it that program called, is it Synchronicity that used to do all the sound?
Synchronicity.
Is it? I'm not too sure. But I know one of the major packages, and I asked the question once that, well, what's the point of having your package these days to sync sound? Because Premiere and all the packages sync the file so good. But one of the things they said in the top package, like I was just saying a second ago, that you can just say, here are all the files, here are all the videos, and it syncs it, puts them all together for yourself. You don't have to figure anything out. But I think even with the Premiere Pro and Final Cut, it's not that hard to keep track of them. As long as you start at one and finish at the end, well, that's what you've done with the clip. The biggest thing I had a problem with, which the Panasonic has now solved, is my old FZ1000. If I had it would have one big file, one big audio file, but 5 video clips, and then putting them together, that was always a bit of a problem. But now that's solved because you've just, with the GH5, you've got one big file, which has been, I think it's a godsend with that. So I might buy it eventually.
Well spent. I have no regrets buying that. It's been a really great little camera. In fact, I kind of put it together with so that's my small camera, and if I need to go onto a gimbal, that's the one that goes onto a gimbal, and then my big kind of studio camera is the Ursa Mini Pro from Blackmagic, which has been a really
beautiful camera.
Now, do you like that one? Do you like the Ursa Mini?
Oh, his audio just went again.
Yep.
It's amazing that. While I was saying with you saying about your gimbal shot, Curtis, did you get the chance to, or have you had the chance to see what's the DJI Ronin 2? Is it the Ronin 2, the second one?
We got to see that at NAB. There was a big crowd around it, so it was hard to get up close. But it looks really, really nice, and DJI continues to do a great job on looks like on their gimbals and such, and so looks pretty interesting. I haven't seen the pricing on that one though. Do you guys know what the pricing is on that one? It was the first one was what was it, 15,000?
Yeah, I didn't see it, but from the sounds of the features, it's going to be dearer because it had a lot of better features. I think one of the things that it seemed to have that the other thing, it would stand up by itself. I think you could put it down. Whereas that's the big thing with, if you haven't got the stand for the other one, you're in trouble. You've got to hold it. I think it's a rounding casing, but you could stand it somewhere. You could put it down on somewhere, which I think that's a big thing with those gimbals, because they're nice, but even though they're lighter than a lot of things, you hold them for 5 minutes, they're damn well heavy, aren't they?
And I mean, it's a practical issue. If you've got to set something down, especially if you're a small crew, your operator is probably going to have to jump in and help with lighting or help with, something. So you've got to have a good way to manage all that. And that's a serious practical consideration, I think, for sure. Yeah, so it looks nice. I haven't had a chance to play with it. I would love to get my hands on one. So if you're listening, DJI.
Yes. Because I think that would be ideal. And like I said, with the stabilization on the GH5, they said, yes, it's great by itself, but even said, people have been doing these walking videos with the GH5 and said it wobbles a bit, but I still don't think stabilization on a camera is meant to give you a perfect one while you're walking. It's meant to give you a great still shot while you're trying to hold it steady. It's not meant for you to be moving around, to me anyway, but if you're going to be moving around, I still think you need a device that does that. And even with some of these one-handed gimbals, you've still got to walk. You can't just walk up and down. You will still get that. You'll just get it flowing. It'll do nicely up and down. You've still got to try a little bit with them.
I completely agree. And that's I think one of the it's like those camera top microphones, like what's Video Pro. Everyone thinks, I spent $250 US on this amazing microphone, and they put it in the hot shoe on their camera, and they're like, how come the audio is not that much better? And it's all about how you use it. And it's the same thing with those motorized gimbals. The reality is that you're still going to get some wobble and some bounce when you're walking. You still got to take that into account. My favorite way to use them actually is to put them on the end of a monopod and use it like a crane. Get some really shots that way. I really like that.
Hey Curtis, have you ever watched Tube Shooter? He's out of the UK.
Yeah.
And he kind of outed Rode on a couple of things. He took apart the Rode VideoMic Pro, I think the NTG 3 or 4, I think it was the 4. They're exactly the same. You actually take them all and it's like, wow, it's the same length of the barrel and everything. You just go, interesting. So Rode's doing a good job just leveraging the same thing over and over and over and over again on those particular mics. There's almost no difference. There may be a small capsule difference, but it didn't even look like there was a big capsule difference. It was sort of interesting. I like when people break things open.
But even then, if like you said, they might have said they're the same, but you've worked them side by side as well. I think Curtis would have, and I know Rick has. You can hear it. There is a difference somewhere, so there must be something different, or else they would sound exactly the same.
Well, I think it's actually like getting a Corvette. If you get a Corvette and you get a Camaro, they're exactly the same engine, at least they used to be, but they're tuned differently. And so the tuning is what gives you the big power on the Camaro. On the Vet. And on the Camaro, it still is powerful, but not the same, even though they have the same engine. By the way, I saw the new Camaro the other day. I was behind it in line in a McDonald's, and I was going, oh, man, it's gorgeous. And I've never been much of a Vet person, but boy, that new one looked beautiful. And I digress.
Yes, well, we don't get them out here because they're just way too expensive here.
Yeah.
So. Because they don't make them in right-hand drives, you see.
Oh, right, right. Well, you're going so fast, though, you'd never notice.
Yeah. Everybody stops talking, so.
It got quiet.
Well, when you was at NAB, Curtis, there was one thing I just saw in somebody's shop. There was a virtual assistant, a virtual checking assistant. Did you see that? I saw somebody was showing a hologram of a virtual check-in person checking in somebody in an airline thing, giving them directions and that, and responding to their questions and that.
I didn't come across that. That may have been over in the virtual reality pavilion, which I didn't quite make it to.
Because this one was quite interesting. It was like, say, American Airlines, so the person saying, okay, where would you like, checking in people, but a virtual one. So you tap on the key, but they say, oh, that's it. You also, please go down this, and pointing the way in. And I thought, gee, they're going to get rid of everybody eventually, aren't they? It looked so convincing. It was quite frightening.
Yeah, but wait till they offshore all those virtual people to offshore virtual people in India. It's over.
But then again, when we get interplanetary, we'll off-planet things then.
That's
so
right.
we know, but there'll be Martians doing it then when we
That's right.
find life somewhere else. We'll
Yep.
off-planet it, and that's.
Yep.
But like everything, though, a lot of companies have done a lot of things like that, but then a lot have come back to because certain things just don't work that way. So a lot of change around in the world.
There is. So anything stand out really big at NAB to you, Curtis?
Well, at a kind of industry-wide level, not really. Well, there are a couple things that were interesting. I think the Atomos Sumo Studio slash I don't know what they call it exactly. It's essentially a really big Atomos recorder, and it could also be used as a grading monitor. So it looked pretty interesting. Of course, they dropped the price on all their recorders. I'm a fan. Not a total fanboy, but I do use my Atomos Shogun, the original Shogun, quite a lot. I still use it even with my GH5, and I love it. There are some things about it that drive me crazy. The fan in it and the battery life are both two things that don't work great, but I love the screen is beautiful. The tools that it comes with are really nice. And on the later generation ones, the Atom HDR feature is really nice, where it will help you sort of fine-tune your exposure for log shooting, which is really nice. It helps get your shadows up out of the mud, so that when you do your final grade, you don't get these really noisy shadows, which is really cool. And their new monitor, the Sumo, which is I think 19 inches, so it's a pretty
19.
sizable.
Oh, that's a big one. Is that supposed to be portable?
Oh, it's for on set if you're doing a bigger production.
Got it. Okay.
On a stand, but it wouldn't be something you'd be running around with your GH5 shooting.
Yeah, put it on top of the GH5 and walk around. That'd be good. That's funny. I have the Assassin, but I have barely used it, which was kind of the updated Shogun. It's pretty similar. Like I said, I haven't done much with it yet. And you're right, the batteries do go out fast, so it's interesting. Have you shot in the 10-bit mode yet? I've been hearing people not like it as much. It's hard to edit. Everybody that I know is sticking with the 8-bit. We were talking to Hugh Brownstone last week, and he said he's just going to stick with the 8-bit. That's all he needs. It wasn't worth the extra effort. Have you tried it yet?
Yeah, I have some thoughts on that as well. I don't think the 10-bit has come of age in the GH5 yet. I think once later this summer they release the new firmware update that records it to some crazy like 400 megabit
450 I think they said. That's a lot.
To be honest, for me even that's not that compelling, because again with the Shogun I record to ProRes, and that's a big part of the equation for me, because that makes my edits so buttery smooth and so easy. And so for me, I'm just going to continue shooting with my Shogun. It's cool to have it in there, so when I do maybe a gimbal shot and I don't want to rig up can't rig up my Shogun on top of the gimbal because I'm just using a small gimbal. So it will be nice, but it wouldn't be something I would shoot in all the time by any means. I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, it's interesting. They're nice. I've used the smaller ones, but they don't do 4K. The was it Ninja, I think, and there was another one, not Samurai. Maybe it was Samurai. They were okay. They were nice little 4K shooters, and they lasted pretty long, so not too many complaints there. Yeah, a lot of people are saying exactly what you said. There weren't a lot of really revolutionary stuff happening this year, but people had fun just meeting each other and talking. I didn't get a chance to go, and Jeff was thinking about coming, and he bought like $1 million worth of music gear, so that was the end of that. So we didn't do it this year.
Not quite $1 million, about $5,500.
$5,500, yeah. But it's like $1 million when you spend it.
That's right.
It hurts.
It was had to spend things around the house as well, so things that you have to do like shutters and things like that. So that sort of put my purchase off of the GH5 for a little bit. But Curtis, with you've saying you use the gimbal. What gimbal are you using with, and lens that you're using with the GH5?
The camera, the GH5. I'm just using a Zhiyun Crane. Have you heard of that one?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So the handheld, the little one, is it?
You did a review on it, I think.
Good. It's been perfect for the GH5. I actually my daughter is in high school. She's in a marching band for the high school, and they went to Hawaii in December. And I was kind of appointed the guy to get all the video footage, and so I had the crane and at that point the GH4, and wow, what a great little combination. It was traveled nicely. I didn't have any grief getting on the plane or getting back home. And the batteries are small enough that no one gives them a second thought. So it did a really nice job. Like, I was walking with the band, and it was interesting. Normally, there's a technique with the gimbal, of course, we talked about just a minute ago, not only in terms of you really got to make your arm fluid and compensate for a lot of the movement, but also sometimes the angle at which you hold the handle makes a difference too. On some of them, like 45 degrees to the ground works best. Some of them perpendicular to the ground works the best. Interestingly, on the crane, it seems like perpendicular works the best. And I was actually, for a lot of the cases, my crane shots were, just me holding it above my head, and it did really, really well. It was super smooth. Even when I was walking, it was smoother than I expected. Again, when you're walking, you're still going to get some of the bounce and stuff of that nature, but it did really, really well. I'm really happy with that gimbal. And they actually have a new version. We actually went to their booth at NAB. So there's a version 2. I think the mounting plate's a little different, so it will accommodate more cameras, especially cameras that have super lightweight lenses, like kit lenses on them, because that's one of the challenges I've had is if I put my my wife's little Sony A6000 on it with the kit lens, the lens isn't heavy enough.
Yes.
It flips back. So the newer version should take care of that issue, it looks like.
You ever have fun when you put some of the microphones on a boom stand and the boom stand just flies up and you have to put the little weight on it? That happened to me the other day. For the first time, I put one of my Rode shotguns, I think it was the NTG2, on the boom, and literally the boom just went doink. I went, So I had to find that little weight that it comes with. I finally found it, strapped it on. It was good. I never had that happen before. That was sort of fun. Little things in life.
Sort of a jib kind of situation?
It's like a jib. I have, what do I have? I've got the Heil, the bigger one. I forgot the number. But and I have it on the riser, so it goes up pretty high and comes out. Well, it's the same one I have here. I don't know if you can see it if I pull it in. So this is the one. Let me get to the. So this is the one I'm using. This is the big Heil, and it's a great arm. It costs about $125. But every so often, if you don't have enough weight, like I'm surprised the Sennheiser seems to do okay. Maybe it's because I have the quick release on it, a little bit of extra weight. But it didn't do as well with the other Rode. It just like doink.
But the Heil do come with
they come with a weight,
extra counterweight, don't they?
Yeah, it's a counterweight, which weighs maybe, I don't know, I'd probably say no more than 2 pounds, maybe 1.5 pounds to 2. And that seems to do it. Just that little bit is all it needed to keep the mic from kind of flying straight into my eyes. It was interesting, but I find I like doing the shows with the shotguns better than the regular mic, probably because you don't have to really lean into it. And the 416's just got great sound. It's one of my favorites. It's just clean. And most of the mics I have are Rhodes, but sometimes these just do a great job. The Sennheiser. I've got one Neumann, the TLM 103, 102, which is teeny, and it was like $795, and I looked at it, I went, that's it. When it came, I was going, the Neumann big. This little thing comes, but it's got a good sound, very bassy. So it's not for everything.
I hope my sound's coming across nicely, but like I'm using the Sound Project. Is it Sound Project?
Sound Projects, yeah.
Sound Project's one, and as I said, it's out of shot, but it's still there. It's I think it comes along quite good. But this is my favourite microphone at the moment.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice mic for what was it? $250?
Yeah, and it's equivalent to one of those bigger Neumann ones.
What is it?
People compare it to
U83, 84, something like that. People say it's exactly the same sound for $250. It's amazing. It's not a bad mic. Do you have a favorite mic, Curtis?
Oh, favorite mic? Well,
of the day, at least.
Yeah, EPA 417B. It's my favorite shotgun microphone. Have you seen these before? You got to see this.
No, is that what you're using now?
an Electro Voice RE20 now.
Oh,
But,
yeah, that's nice.
is this is it right here.
Yep, that's the newer one, right? Is that the newer one?
For me,
Is that the newer one, the RE?
Voice RE20. So this is the
RE20.
classic. And then this is the DPA 4017 shotgun mic. This one's amazing. When I have to boom it out on the end of a boom pole, this saves my back.
Really?
It sounds fantastic. It sounds really, really nice.
That's what I've been hearing that about DPA a lot. People just love it. Haven't had one. I have the RE27. I didn't get the 20. I got the 27 5 years ago, and it's a great mic. It has a lot of grit. It's definitely more of a radio kind of mic. AM radio. It'd be good for AM because it really just kind of grits it up. If you put it on one of these, like the Aphex with a tube or even the Personas, it gets pretty gritty. But the REs are nice. There's a brand new RE that came out. I can't remember the number, and I'm not sure. But it's like $300 maybe, and it's $250, $300. It's really nice. It looks just like the RE20 and the 27. Maybe a slight difference, but real close. So DPA is good.
I definitely like this DPA. In fact, I'm probably going to be investing here in a new supercardioid for film work, and probably be their 4018, which is kind of the corresponding microphone for indoor dialogue.
So what's the difference between a super and a hypercardioid? I've got like Rode NT3s, which are hypercardioid. You can put them like hidden on a table, and it'll catch the dialogue of everybody around, or put them behind a partition or something. It catches everything, but what's the super versus the hyper? I think, there you go. I think you're back. No?
No.
There you go.
Now.
So there's cardioid, supercardioid, and hypercardioid. And hypercardioid has a narrower pickup on the front, but it has a bigger tail on the back.
Right.
So that can be a little bit of a cost. So kind of the best compromise between cardioid, where you have no pickup on the back, and a hypercardioid, where you have a really tight pickup on the front, but a pretty big tail on the back. Supercardioid sits in the middle of that. So it does have a tail, but it's not nearly as big as hyper. But it's also, the front pickup is closer to, somewhere between hyper and cardioid. So pretty nice compromise.
That sounds good. I love all those mics, especially when you're on location filming and you don't know quite where you're going to get sound-wise. Some of those do really good. They've saved our behinds a couple of times where we had 2 or 3 of them running, and we were able to get a lot of stuff without losing shots or trying to get weird dialogue mics hidden around everywhere. They did a good job, and the Rode made good ones. They don't push them that much anymore, but they did a really good job. Those are NT3s, and I think they were about $200-300 a piece. And like all Rodes, they look good. They were solid. I'm still convinced Rode used to make military weapons, but I'm not not sure. Well, Curtis, we are just about out of time. We're out of time, but who cares? We always keep going. But we've been on for almost an hour, so. As always, a great pleasure having you on. Always looking forward to when you come on and join us. It's fun. Sorry for Skype. I don't think with Skype. Maybe next time we call you, we're going to try something different. I can do what they call a vMix call, which allows us to go direct through a browser. And they said it's really good. Maybe we'll try that for you next time and see if that fixes these Skype issues, because that is really direct. It's like direct TCP connection, and they said it works. It's basically an NDI connection, I think, and they said it works really, really well. So maybe we'll try that next time, because Skype is becoming more and more of a hassle lately. It's getting harder and harder to get good communications out of it. So I think we lost you again.
Yeah, that's what I said. There was a few quiet points in the show because waiting for say if Skype was going to do a job, and then when we waited, then it wouldn't do it, and then it did do it.
Yeah, so
it's strange today.
Yeah, it's bizarre. But Curtis, again, good. Oh, by the way, don't forget to go to Curtis's site, www. learnlightandsound.com. We put up the link a couple of times. And one more time. So here is the link to. So here we go. That's the link to his site. He's got some great training, lots of podcasts on that. He does a course. It's well worth buying. If you want to invest in yourself, this is a great class to take. And he has some samples of the class on some of his. He's got a lot of videos, as you can see. As I scroll down, you're going to see a lot of different content, and just does a great job.
And like Curtis said, with video, when you're doing any video, the key component to that, to me, is sound. You can get away with a little bit of bad lighting. You can get away with a bit of noise in your video. I mean, in picture, but the sound, if you've got perfect sound, people won't notice the other things.
That's true. That's true. So, my friend, we will see you next time. I'm not sure if you have audio yet.
Can you hear me here?
Yeah, now we hear you. I don't know if you could hear us, but we were plugging your website, which has some great content. So, Curtis, we'll see you next time. And Jeff, as always, have a great weekend, both of you. And
Yes.
We will be back next week. Have a good one, everyone. And thanks a lot for joining. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye for now.